Here with another video where I share my thoughts and opinions on someone or something going on in this wacky weird wrestling world. As you can tell by the title below, this one will be one where I share my thoughts and opinions on WWE wrestler superstar Zaria. Would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on Zaria down in the comments below, especially if you knew her on the Australian New Zealand independent scene as Delta. Would love again to know your thoughts and opinions. And for myself personally, first time I ever heard of her. Again, Australia's like the other side of the world. For myself personally, I don't really follow wrestling really on any level outside of Canada and the United States, let alone a place like Australia. No disrespect, it's just mostly because of a time zone change. But first time I ever heard about her, I believe, was either at or around Elimination Chamber 2024. It was held in Australia, and she had a tryout there, and a lot of people who are familiar with the scene, I remember Rhea Ripley saying that WWE should hire Zaria Delta. And don't get me wrong, I can totally understand why they changed her name and not like Julia or Stephanie Vacure, because there's I don't know if airline or airplane company named Delta, so makes sense for myself personally. Out of the three that I mentioned, Stephanie Vacure, Julia, and Zaria, how do I put this? I really like and enjoy all three's body of work over the last 6 months or so, whenever they started to appear on WWE TV. But Zaria, I mean this in the absolute best way possible. I think I said this on Twitter or X before, whatever it's called, that and again, I mean this as a compliment. Zaria reminds me a lot of Beth Phoenix kind of deal, and hopefully likelihood of it happening is not necessarily the highest, but would love a match in between those two. And Beth Phoenix, one of my all-time favorite female wrestlers, superstars. So again, mean that in a good way. Her on the microphone out of NXT is not necessarily male or female the best, but again, I don't really blame them and people in NXT and really just NXT in regards to WWE for not necessarily being the best on the microphone and all of that stuff, mostly because I know that I would not be the best on the microphone without a shadow of a doubt. And when it comes to her overall, how do I put this? Her presence, her in the ring, her on the microphone, definitely one of the bigger reasons why I personally watch NXT over the last couple months. And she debuted mid to late October, so it hasn't even been it's been months, but not a lot of months since her TV debut. The more that I see her wrestle on NXT TV, on their PLEs, I'm like, man, the more I would want to see her wrestle. I think whenever she does get called over to the main roster, I think she'll be reasonably successful. It all depends on how you define what success is. Is it having 5-star instant classic matches, or is it winning championships, getting those crowd reactions? I think she'll definitely have very good, very solid matches on the main roster, considering that she's having very good matches with NXT. And no disrespect to the female wrestlers outside of really Roxanne, Stephanie, and Julia, but they're nowhere. Everybody else, the four women, outside of those four women in NXT's women's division, none of them can hold a candle to those four, let alone the ones on the main roster. So I can definitely see her having very good, very solid matches on the main roster. Her on the mic, again, not necessarily one of my favorites, but not everybody can be a Kevin Owens or an Eddie Kingston kind of deal. And when it comes to crowd reactions, definitely, when I say overseas, I know that Australia and like the UK are nowhere near each other, but I can see both I don't know, UK is not a continent. I don't think. No, because Europe is. But like, like those two respective parts of the world will definitely have a very good reaction, I can imagine, to Zaria. Obviously, Australia, you can throw in New Zealand there as well. But yeah, overall, I like her. Probably out of the three, Stephanie, her, and Julia. I don't know for sure if she's my favorite, but she's the one that I would have overall the highest. I don't know for sure. Yeah, highest floor, kind of deal where it's like if she's not at least in serious contention more times than not for at least the mid card level championships, I would be surprised on the main roster, obviously. Whereas Stephanie and Julia, it's like a little bit more iffy, but it's still pretty certain, if that makes sense. But yeah, those are my thoughts and opinions. Would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are on Zaria down in the comments below. It would genuinely mean a lot to myself if you let me know. And yeah, hope you guys are doing as okay as possible, mentally, emotionally, and physically.